Good morning. It is 9 UTC, September 9th, Monday. Just going through a little Bitcoin update here. So, economic calendar this week, just kind of give an outlook for what we're expecting and whatnot. Big stuff. Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, CPI data. That's the number one thing. Expect that to be a volatility event 1 hour before the New York opens. Same thing as Thursday. We have initial jobless claims and PPI. These can be the two big ones that I care about. Again, an hour before the markets open. Another thing as well, the Eurozone is doing their interest rate decision. They're expected to drastically lower interest rates, which is good for the entire Eurozone. So again, this is 15 minutes before, an hour and 15 minutes before the New York opens, versus the initial jobless claims, the PPI, which is an hour before the New York opens. So, yeah, expecting considerable market volatility as the New York opens up on Wednesday and Thursday. Until then, kind of smooth sailing, as we're potentially seeing a bounce. We'll go through everything. Looking over at long short ratios, just in general, Taker's been majority short or just at 50%. We're seeing the first major changes this morning as lots and lots of people are smashing that green button, potentially trying to get an upside move. Same thing as over the weekend, obviously going into the big dump from last weekend and then on to the lows that got down about 52 or 53. In any case, we saw the big stuff moving back to the downside here around about 70%. So we actually are seeing more short stepping in this area. And we know this because open interest is also increasing. Now, if we continue moving back to the upside, we want to see shorts increasing. That's the number one thing that kind of drives retail direction. That's why you look at long short in that sense. So if the price is moving up, open interest is increasing, and shorts are increasing, like long short accounts, that means that the retail traders are actually trying to short into an upside move, which is much more organic for an upside continuation. Speaking of liquidations and liquidity, going over that, we've got some really nice local stuff that we kind of built up from the weekend, 55.5 all the way up to about 56K before we start seeing a bit of a dead zone. First major dead zone where we would expect some type of reversal is up here close to 57K, 56.9. So getting into this area, this is really where if you're going to see some type of local reversal, that's really the higher time frame level to regain as well. That 57K called that's going to be the most important one. And then looking at the lower time frame stuff, just kind of intraday as far as liquidity goes, we got a nice little pocket, like I said, opening up above us. If we do start breaking down, losing some local level, some local priority, 54.6, if we start clearing that low that we did earlier this morning, we should be seeing another sweep back to the lows and grab that kind of like late long liquidity that was kind of trending to the upside. So again, not really great as far as directional, but it looks like the local bottom's in until we create a new low and go down to like 52K again. Looking over at trading light. So getting into some data, just the heat map here is just showing the order books effectively, and I've got it set to 300. So anything over 300 as far as position sizes, it'll show up pretty heavily. Yeah, as of this morning, we've got quite a bit of shorts trying to stack in to hold that kind of local price all the way up to about 56K, where like we saw pretty decent amount of like local liquidations liquidity. So we'll see if those get tagged and filled or not, or if they get pulled. All the stuff to the downside as we were dumping, we talked about the fake orders basically getting pulled. The majority of them got pulled on the way down until we finally found a local bottom. They're stepping back in now to potentially try and hold that low, and below that, significant amounts of order books longs are stepping in to potentially hold effectively the low. So that's always positive when we're seeing that. But the one kind of concern is, we're starting to see open interest increasing again as we're going back to the upside, where really what we want to see is that's great, but we want to see those shorts coming in. So short liquidations are happening slightly, not too crazy. So that's still the priority. The local level, like I said earlier, 54.6. If we start losing that local low, you'd probably want to see a retest back down into the local lows that we did from the 6th of September. Just double checking over to the TPO in this area. And again, that's where the heavy shorts are from, and a pretty stacked order book. Yeah, we could come back down to retest stuff lower, 53.6. Like there's not a bad area to come back based off of value if there's a further breakdown. But for right now, we've got some good upside trending price action on the lower time frame. So play it as such. If we do start losing some stuff, losing that low, losing some priority, then we can target lower. And then the macro is definitely going back towards like 52, 51K potentially. But for now, it looks just fine. And finally, looking at the order book imbalance, yeah, it starts to get pretty thick once we get back above 57K. Significant amounts of order book imbalances there. Locally, it's a little bit thin. So again, if we are going to see some kind of like local failures, we might get back into 56K, get into that area of like high liquidity, reverse, and then potentially come back down and punish these kind of like late longs as of early this morning and late last night. So overall, you've got some local priority up, and the big thing which I'll talk about is we've broken the parabolic down move, which is a good thing for upside turning price action. So as far as that goes, right now you've got some local levels right here at the weekly open. You got some very local demand as well, which is good. So local demand is holding up weekly. You want to see that kind of continue to have a continuation move up, potentially all the way to 57K. Flipping 57K is actually a very significant level. 57, we'll call it 57.2 because it includes the previous weekly open. That's going to be the number one thing that starts gaining back priority up, because that's a high time frame range as well. So we break the last month of price action down. Really, we are basically seeing that the regain of 57.2, 57K, this starts to become a potentially upside trending price action. To the downside, if we do have some continuation failures that start to fail the lows at 53.6, I would expect, since that's also 1 hour and 4 hour demand, we have that continuation and the full failure down to 51, which is the higher time frame, higher low from way back on the 5th of August, so over a month ago. But for the time being, we've got some upside priority. See, it's flashing here. Yeah, basically, we're waiting for this hourly to close to see if there's enough demand here established to a demand zone. So for the time being, it looks fine. Still expecting this kind of low to hold if we have a local failure of the weekly open. Local weekly open that we're really concerned about is 54.8K, so keep that in mind, right? 53.6, that's the level we don't want to lose. If we lose that, likely that we test 51K as well. But for the time being, it looks pretty decent as far as like regaining some local levels. Definitely a change in price action from what we've seen from the last week or two. I would like to see some higher lows and some kind of grindy upside price action. That's the ideal. And realistically, we've wiped out a very significant amount of the long order books of people trying to long into this downside move. So the idea here is that we create grindy, upside grindy price action that basically traps shorts and allows price to get back up into some significant short liquidity. So that's that. That's it for Monday. I'll be back around tomorrow. But for the time being, I'm pretty optimistic about this zone. And if we do lose the low, that's kind of our last hold. If we do start breaking that low, yeah, just catch you guys the early open. Until then, take it easy.